3-pointers apiece. That's the coach of the Splash Brothers, Steve Kerr.
Late arriving. Go ahead, right here in the front.
This seems like maybe the most emotional, maybe we could say, that we've seen out of Andrew Wiggins. You know, usually he's pretty straightforward guy, straightforward guy. But he's like staring down guys more, being more expressive on the court. How much do you guys feed off of that energy that he's kind of providing?
Yeah, I mean, he's a very mild-mannered guy, but he's taken a leap in these playoffs in terms of his impact on the game defensively on the glass. You saw it the other night. I mean, 16 rebounds, and I think because the games are obviously so meaningful, there's more emotion from him and from everybody. So the biggest thing is he's a two-way player. You got to have two-way guys to make it this far and to succeed, and he has just grown by leaps and bounds over the last couple of years, and it's really fun to watch that growth.
Back
Hey,
left.
Coach. Colin Ward-Henninger, CBS Sports. You always talk about, well, not just you, your whole team, talk about coming out, having to play with force, having to have the right energy. You did a better job with that in Game 2 and Game 4 than you did in the other games. I'm curious, as a coach, early in the game, what are the indicators that you look for to see that you're playing with that necessary force?
Yeah, boxing out is one of them. Ball pressure, defensively, rotations. You can just tell, are you a step early or a step late? And I think that's pretty much a common theme throughout the playoffs in every matchup. I mentioned, watching the Miami-Boston series, it was like almost automatic, whichever team lost came back and punched the other team in the mouth the next game, and it kept going back and forth. And I just think that, especially as you get deeper in the playoffs, teams are so evenly matched, and the games are physical and intense. Even the slightest edge in terms of, that force and energy makes a big difference.
And here in front.
Hey, Steve, tomorrow is the 3-year anniversary of your guys' elimination against Toronto and also of Clay's ACL injury. And I'm wondering if you could just remember your emotions that night, not only about being eliminated, but also, the devastating injury and just the perspective. Here we are 3 years later and you've got a Game 5 on the same day.
Yeah, that seems like a long time ago. It was a really strange time for me because I obviously was just devastated for Clay coming on the heels of Kevin's injury. It just felt like we got wiped out just in, back-to-back games. And we were already, really emotionally tired at that point from the 5-year run. And I also felt this immense pride in our guys' effort and, almost sending that series back to Toronto to a Game 7. So there were all these emotions, but the overriding factors were the injuries to Clay and Kevin. It was just devastating and really hard to see them suffering. And but yeah, that was a long time ago. Good to be back here.
Joe, second row.
So you made a lineup change the other night. Did you see what you wanted out of Otto? And Looney seemed to dominate, coming off the bench. So is this something you stick with?
I'm not going to give that away. I don't like to talk about starting lineups before games. So, part of this series for us and part of the whole playoffs, frankly, has been trying to figure out rotations. We didn't have our whole team together until the Game 1 of the Denver series. And then Gary got hurt. Andre got hurt. And so it feels like almost every series we have had to search a little bit for combinations and for substitution patterns. And so I'll leave it at that. But yeah, it's very different from teams we had in the past where there might have been one decision to make. Are we going to play JaVale McGee or Zaza Pachulia? But the kind of the core the big minutes were going to be played by the same guys. This feels a little bit different this year. There's been a little bit more mixing and matching, and really proud of the group, everybody, for staying ready and staying prepared and not allowing that sort of change and alterations from game to game to bother them.
Mark in the back.
Hey, Steve. I was wondering, through the course of the day-to-day with Steph, what jumps out to you with what he does with his conditioning work that enables him to always be in tip-top shape?
Just the consistency of his routine. It's like a metronome. I mean, every day it's the exact same thing. He's in the training room, he's in the weight room, he's on the court. And there's, it's clockwork, but there's also a sense of joy and energy within that work. He enjoys it so much. He loves the process. And I think that's one of the things that ties all great athletes together. Like, I'm talking about the superstar athletes, Roger Federer's of the world. Steph Curry's of the world. There's a routine that is not only super disciplined, but it's really enjoyed each day. There's a passion that comes with it, and that's what sustains it over time. And when you love something like those guys do, you work at it, you get better, and you just keep going. I might have told you this before, but we actually met Federer a few years ago in China when we played in Shanghai. And he came and spoke to our locker room. And Draymond asked him, he said, "How have you been doing this for 20 years?" And his answer was just simple yet profound. He said, I love my daily ritual. He said, I get up and make my kids breakfast, drop them off at school, and go train. And I've figured out the right training methods to keep me in the best position. At my age. I love competing. He said, but every single day I put my head on the pillow at the end of the day, and I just think, man, what a great day. And so I think of Steph a lot when I think of that story from Roger Federer. It's very, very similar, just sort of zest for life and just joy for the process.
Tim over here on the right.
Steve, I know you don't want to talk about the specifics of Mike Brown and Kenny Atkinson leaving, but has there been any worry of sort of distraction on the staff leading into this, obviously with these huge games coming up? And secondly, knowing that you have coaches vacancies, but yet you have coaches who always get promoted, you think it's going to be pretty, not easy, but pretty, you're going to have tons of answers to be able to fill those spots with guys applying?
Honestly, the answer is we've barely given it any thought just because of the business at hand, and we know that in a week or so we can get to all that. I won't comment on anything until the teams involved are going to make comments, and so I guess we can have that discussion after the series is over. I'm sorry?
Has there been any disturbance to the process of putting the game plans together, studying?
No. Yeah, there's the guys we're in the finals, so it's everybody's just locked in, and we'll deal with that when we get to it.
Jeff in the center.
Hey, Steve.
Hi, Jeff.
How well do you know Brad Stevens, if at all, or a relationship that may exist? And he did the opposite of you, coaching to the front office. And what lifestyle differences are there between the two jobs that lifestyle specifically might be more palatable than the other?
I know Brad pretty well. We actually connected when I was in broadcasting, and he was at Butler. And we had lunch. He wanted to pick my brain about the NBA. I wanted to pick his brain about coaching. I was thinking about getting into coaching, and I had done a couple of Butler games for CBS, and so we've built a relationship over the years. Just great respect for him, and he was an amazing coach, and I think he's done a phenomenal job as GM. The moves he made this year, adding Horford and Derek White, brilliant. So yeah, he's somebody I think who has figured out what he wants at this stage in his life, and that's what we all have to figure out in this business. I was able to hold off on coaching until my kids were pretty much done with high school, and that's the way I wanted it. And I think he was sort of the opposite. While he was coaching, his kids were pretty young, and I know he's got a lot more time with them now, which is important for him. So you just have to figure out your own existence and what you want within that. And I think he's done a good job of that.
Again, in the back.
Steve, when you look at the video of the previous games, how do you feel about the quality of shots you guys are getting, especially in the half court?
A lot of good ones and some bad ones, and that's kind of what we spend when we're go through our offensive stuff and our adjustments. We're trying to create more good ones, but we had a lot of good looks the other night. I saw the stat, I can't remember what it was, but on our uncontested threes, we actually didn't shoot the ball that well, but we got a lot of them, and that was a good sign. But there's some things we can do better for sure, and to try to create open looks.
The last two, Janie, and then over here, Anthony.
Hi, Steve. I know Draymond doesn't typically need any motivating necessarily, but have you challenged him in any way ahead of this next game? Just anything that,
Nope.
No.
No,
Yep.
Draymond's Draymond. He's gonna bring it every night, and I think the thing that maybe got lost the other night is how good he was, down the stretch, and he ends up the game with 4 steals. He was brilliant defensively. He did what we needed to do to win the game. Everybody's locked in on his scoring. Scoring has always been kind of the last thing that we need from him. We need his defense, his energy, his force, his competitiveness, and down the stretch of the game, he made huge plays at both ends.
Anthony, last one.
Yeah, along those lines, though, on the offensive end with him, I mean, this is obviously a difficult matchup, the shot blocking, the length, how they're playing him. What ideally do you need from him offensively better?
Well, there's some details, things that we've seen on tape that we feel like we can do, and obviously not gonna say them here, but I think there's an awareness that and a respect for their defense, just like Memphis, with all the shot blocking Memphis had. There's a similar theme in that we can't play in a crowd. And this is as a 5-man unit. We've got to figure out what that means. How do we create spacing, and where do we need to be? Where does each guy need to be in order to thwart, some of that shot blocking and congestion in the paint?
Thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you.
Steve Kerr,